This is episode 15. Welcome back, guys. This is Gaming with Austin, and today, this is episode 15 of the Utopian Community series. This is loading up right now. Sometimes it does that because this is a dual-core CPU, but fortunately it's hyper-threaded, which is good. Let's finish up beating the land for the beetroot. Well, let's finish things off, then after that, I'd start planting. And after that, I'd build another house. In this series, throughout the series, I'm plotting. My goal is to plot at least 10 acres of land, like by ground, and eventually I'd start building taller and taller. And eventually I'd go as I go towards season 2. Oops. Maybe season 3. I'm gonna start dismantling the houses, using that to build apartments. Starting off with townhomes. Townhouses. Which is actually the type of house I live in right now. But I can't tell you the address. I cannot. Because that's personal info. When I start getting a P.O. box, you can send me fan mail if you'd like. So you can mail me stuff without any intervention. Without any intervention. Because everybody's guaranteed the right to privacy in their homes. Similar to a VPN, sort of. Sort of like that. When it goes to privacy, our privacy options are getting weaker and weaker as we go towards the age of the information. Which means mass surveillance through the internet. Many of us don't know about this. But they are watching you. Your every last move on the internet. They're doing so not only to protect you, they're doing it for good and for evil. The good side is that of mass surveillance is that not only you are being protected, but others are being protected the same way too. From harm. But the bad side is, if mass surveillance goes into the wrong hands, it can cause problems within our society. We don't want that. No. I heard that EPA is starting to bring back asbestos in construction. I'm not happy about that. Because, you know, asbestos has already been linked to cancer. Just like tobacco is. And meat. Going vegan can actually be pretty cheap. Especially if you make the vegan foods yourself. You can save so much money by making it yourself. Because if we all ditch meat in favor of veganism, the world would be a better place not only for the vegans, but for everybody. Not just the vegans, but for everybody and their pets and farm animals that are being exploited. It's time we need to stop exploiting our animals for food. Unless you're gonna do it on a small scale, don't exploit animals at all for food. Treat animals as pets instead. There are people out there who have otherwise supposed to be farm animals that are used as pets. That's good. It's better just to use animals as pets instead of food. They can also be used for scavenging. For resources. It's great that we can scavenge for resources. With the seeds, and if there's more than one seed per plant, don't just throw it away. Just reuse that. What we need is more plants in Minecraft. Types of crops in Minecraft like beans, soy, and other forms of protein, plant-based plants. And focus less on the animals, more on the plants, because this is a vegan community. I'm doing this to promote. I know this is a large plot of land, but this isn't enough to feed 60 people. Because it's unfair that in capitalism, it ultimately leads to exploiting people and animals alike. So if you want to fight capitalism, start off by ditching meat. Start off by ditching meat. If you want to fight capitalism, the best bet, go vegan. Go for beans, rice, breads. Especially if you can make your own bread. That's good. Instead of buying wheat flour, make it yourself. With a blender. Or mortar and pestle. Use a mortar and pestle. Too. Might take a little longer, but in the end it's worth it. Plus it's a lot cheaper. It's better for your electric bill too. And for the dough beater, like those mixers you see that are used to mix the dough up, whether it be to make cake or noodles, stuff like that, get a hand cranked one that has especially one with a high gear ratio. The higher the gear ratio, the better. That means you can mix stuff pretty quickly. With less effort. You don't have to use electricity. The only time you need electricity is if you're going to use a computer. That's about it. If we're going to use air conditioning, go towards using stuff like our piss. Because it's actually coolant. Or maybe go for water cooling. Because that's how high-end gaming PCs are being cooled down. Just like the high-end PCs that only the rich can afford. Who really needs a high-end PC anyway? Who the hell really needs that? Trying not to be so crude. Because you can go by with a Pentium and a GT 1030 and have decent gaming performance for your buck. Have decent performance for bucks. Because, plus, a Pentium's a pretty good budget CPU. It's a pretty good budget CPU. But with the Ryzen's, but the Intel Core i3, even though they have quad-core i3s now, instead of those slower than molasses, the hyper-threading is a really good advantage if you have a dual-core CPU and you want to play games that are suited for quad-cores. The hyper-threading is a really good advantage. Don't just go for a... Because if you can't afford a quad-core processor, go for at least a dual-core with hyper-threading. It does the same job. But it has sort of less performance. Compare that to a CPU with the same cores, but 2 threads. A hyper-threaded CPU has better performance. Actually. Compare that to... a Celeron and a Pentium have the same clock rate. The Pentium's the one with the hyper-threading. The Celeron's the one with no hyper-threading. The Pentium will actually end up performing a lot better. Because of the hyper-threading advantage. And eventually... the amount of work weeks... our work weeks will actually, around the world will actually end up getting shorter. Because 40 hours a week, that is a lot of work. That's just too much. For your mind. It's not a good idea to be working that much. 30 hours a week is good. But, you know, machines are slowly taking our jobs. If we're gonna bring back our jobs, we need to fight. Destroy those machines if they've taken our jobs. What it takes for crypto mining, it takes a lot of energy. Just to make one Bitcoin. It takes a lot of energy. Here and there, you might make $2 a day through crypto mining. With one of those crypto miners. A mining rig wouldn't do you much. It's not gonna do you much. Which is crazy. Because eventually, we're gonna have gaming rigs that are more powerful, than the human brain. Just 20. Because the highest end gaming rig with an Intel Core i9 7980XC and 2 Titan XPs. I know it's gonna be really expensive. But that's the thing about high performance graphics cards. They tend to be pretty expensive. Which is why, if you want to go for a gaming rig, stick to a 1030. Or GTX 750. You could get that for cheap. Too. But if you want to go for efficiency, because high-end graphics cards, they chug power. No one wants a very expensive power bill. No one wants that. Plus, with Germany's clean energy thing, they're providing so much to where they're required by law to give people money just for using it. What if we go towards clean energy? Plus, look, I'm completely done. All I have to do is plant those beetroot seeds. I'm ready. Oops. Accidentally stomped on the land. Oops. My mistake. Let's just take your time. Let's start planting. One by one. I know this is hard work, but eventually we'll give you a lot. This is hard work, but at the end, you're gonna have plenty of plenty to harvest. You'd have plenty of food to harvest. You'll have plenty of food to harvest. In the end. A lot more than enough. I'm making this sound as realistic as possible. It'd be all of this would be free under one condition. There'd be a minimum and a maximum ration. Minimum ration is the amount required to stay alive. That is the amount required to stay alive. Just to keep you alive. Because your body does some work. In the end, all of this hard work in Minecraft, this is gonna pay me off big time. Because eventually there'd be enough for everybody. My goal is to make sure there's enough. It ain't just people being lazy that's causing businesses to fail, ultimately. It's technological advancements. We need to take advantage of that. Because that's our way to fight capitalism. It ain't just lazy people. There are people that bust their asses just to bring home $200 a week. I know. But in the end, it'll be worth it for everybody. Farmers don't even get paid a lot, yet they bust their asses just to keep us alive. Just to keep all of us alive. Yet they bust their asses just to keep us alive. Yet they bust... Time for more farming. There are people out there that bust their asses just to keep us alive, yet they get paid very little. If I was the last man on Earth, I'd have to do my own farming. And once I'm done, I'd have what I need. I'd have what I need to survive. I'd have what I need to survive. And eventually I'd go towards mega-scale construction. Instead of just small-scale construction, I'd go for large-scale construction, ultimately. What we need is to focus on growing many types of crops. Not just what Minecraft gives you, but more than just that. I wish everybody was able to get... I wish everybody had enough food. Problem is, people can't afford it, no matter how hard they work for it. In the third world. This is just unfair. This is what happens in a capitalist superpower. They end up exploiting the poor everywhere. This is just horrible. This is just the beginning. Of my farming adventure. And eventually I'd start summoning villagers to do the work. And eventually, we may end up finding what caused the Big Bang. Because for me, I can neither accept nor deny God's existence. If there was those founders of all those religions, it's possible there might be a God beyond that. God's existence is actually a possibility. There is a 50-50 chance it might exist. There's a 50-50 chance it's not gonna there's a 50-50 chance God doesn't exist. Science is still looking for answers. In religion, there's also mythology within that religion. As long as there's enough food for everybody. We'd all be good. The amount of calories you need just to survive is about 1,000 to 1,200 just to survive. That's the amount needed just for survival. And I'm slowly making progress more and more. Eventually I'd start planting more crops. Eventually. This ain't over yet. Sorry about the profanity. Oh, I'm doing it. I'm adding more rows. The more rows I add, the more columns I could do more quickly. The faster I can do columns. The more columns I do, the faster I can do the rows. This is a quadratic formula. Based on y equals x squared. You learn that in algebra. In pre-algebra, you'll learn about the linear formulas. Like y equals mx plus b. Which m is a slope, and b is a y-intercept. Rise over run. It's pretty easy. It's actually pretty easy. if you understand it correctly. If you understand it correctly, it's actually pretty easy. Multiplication is like repeated addition. It's like repeated addition. You add then repeat. Like 8 times 5 is 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8. That's what 8 times 5 is, which is 40. That's what 8 times 5 is. 5 times 8. Imagine if you have 5 nickels. And each nickel is 5 cents. No, I'm not trying to promote capitalism. Or anything. You have 8 nickels worth 8 coins worth 5 cents each. Assuming 10 times 40. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So, 10 times 4 is 40. 5 times 8 is 40. 20 times 2 is 40. All you have to do is add... That's what you need to do. It's pretty simple. Some of you might be first grader, coming up to first grade, second grade, but I'm giving you a head start of what's coming next in math. Of what's coming up in math next. When you start hitting when you start hitting 3rd grade, 4th grade, or even 5th grade. With division, basically it's like multiplication, except you subtract by that number until you can't subtract anymore, until you can't subtract anymore. That's what division is, basically. Repeated subtraction. You keep subtracting until you can't subtract anymore. You keep subtracting, basically you keep subtracting until you can't subtract anymore. One easy way to divide is improper fractions. Until you find the with division, you keep subtracting until you by the number you're dividing it by, until you see the remainder, until you see what remains, until you find what remains. Until you find a fragment. The fragment. So, 40 divided by 6, subtract that by 6 times 7 is 42. So you're going to have a fragment of 4, which is 4 divided by 6, you subtract that fragment by number it divided the upper number by, fraction that out, and you have the answer. Once I finish this is going to conclude our video for today. Don't forget to leave a like if you liked this video, dislike if you disliked it, subs if you loved it, click on the bell icon to be notified for more videos. Thank you for watching. Share this with your friends to help my channel grow. As always, don't forget to leave a like, like I mentioned earlier. And as always, peace.